Mendoza over the middle. Oh, he's got it.
And get the ball in the hands of Carnell Tate.
David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
Out into the open. What a move, Lemon. End zone city, touchdown Ducks.
As Caleb Downs dislodges the football.
Jeremiah Love, full head of steam, and there he goes. Love off to the races.
You know, people looking at this draft class wondering what it's going to look like. There's a lot of starters to be had deep into this draft.
Mendoza diving toward the end zone. Touchdown!
Great catch in traffic by Lemon.
There was pressure from David Bailey.
Over the middle to Carnell Tate.
Kenyon Shanique with a hurry.
Caleb Downs picked it clean.
Love's going to get it again straight ahead, and there goes Love.
I'm fired up. It is a really, really good group.
Oh, it is the best time of the year. You get to focus on the NFL draft. Welcome to a fresh edition of Mock Draft Live. If you're new to the show, what we do is analyze, maybe critique our experts' drafts. Yeah. Last week it was Daniel Jeremiah. Bucky, Mock Draft 3.0. You're taking center stage.
I'm excited. This is the only one that you ever need to know about. You leave all those other mock drafts alone. This right here is what is going to happen over draft day weekend.
Yeah, Lance Erline, I'll give you an opportunity to really go hard on what Bucky is doing over his first round. But by the way, I can't help but notice. Last week, Daniel Jeremiah was on the show. He was kind of giving you a little bit of heat on that background. It looks like you've moved locations. Is this going to be a running theme now over the course of the next couple weeks?
DJ shamed me. He bullied me. And so I just tightened it up a little bit. I got my Texas radio hollow. Oh, how'd that get there? No big.
Oh, Hall of Famer.
He's flexing.
Hall of Famer.
He's flexing. He was feeling a certain way, and I am here for it. Lance,
do it again, DJ.
you never
You're not welcome
disappoint.
on the show anymore, DJ.
No. That's how it's going to play out. Lance, we got more from you and an opportunity to go through what we're seeing from Bucky's mock draft, but I'm going to let you kick things off. And what I have noticed across the board with our mock drafts, the number one selection doesn't seem to be all that different depending on who you're looking at.
But no, it's not going to change. Fernando Mendoza is the pick here for the Las Vegas Raiders, and it makes sense. You think about what they want to do. This is a systematic quarterback, a guy who really operates well from the pocket. Clint Kubiak has done a great job of creating a system that can elevate quarterbacks. Mendoza is just going to be the joystick in a video game. When we think about Clint Kubiak and what he wants to do, he wants to put the ball in the hands of the playmakers, have a distributor at the position. Mendoza is that. That is why he is going to be the Raiders' choice to be QB1.
Yeah, a closer look at Mendoza in just a couple moments here. Meanwhile, the Jets looking for a little bit of defense on a roster that's got a lot of holes.
Okay, Aaron Glenn is going to follow the blueprint that was very successful at his previous place, the Detroit Lions. The Lions got Aiden Hutchinson anchored at defense. David Bailey can anchor the Jets' defense. Speed, explosiveness, big splash playability is exactly what they need to get this defense up and going.
Yeah, at number 3, speaking of a roster that's got a whole lot of holes, the Arizona Cardinals trying to figure out what the identity of this team is going to be, and they got a pretty good piece if they go with Reese here.
Yeah, Monty Ossenford has to really resist the temptation to go for need and just take the best player available, and that is Orville Reese. Yes, you're trying to figure out what position to play him. Is he an off-ball linebacker? Is he an edge player? What we do know, he's a blue-chip player, and you can't go wrong with blue-chip players on your team. The Arizona Cardinals in a tough division. They need more blues to get it close. He's one of those.
Meanwhile, the Titans at number 4, they got QB1. Do they have RB1 here?
RB1 is absolutely this. Look, I saw Brian Daboll do this to help Daniel Jones back in the day. Big-time running back. Let's lead on the running back. Alleviate some of the pressure on the quarterback. Jeremiah Love is going to do that. Cam Ward is as talented as they come. But when you have a big-time player like Love, who follows the script that they've done very successful in Tennessee, you think about Eddie George, Chris Johnson, on and on and on. When they're at their best, they have a big-time running back. That's why Love needs to be the pick in Tennessee.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Giants at number 5. This is a remade roster and a remade coaching staff. Sonny Styles all of a sudden is rising up draft boards.
Yeah, he's rising up draft boards because he's a talented player. He's an outstanding athlete. And if you're John Harbaugh, you're thinking about what can I do to help this defense become a dominant defense that we're accustomed to seeing in New York. Well, put Sonny Styles behind that talented front line. Talking about Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter. Now you put him right beside Tremaine Edmonds. two off-ball linebackers who can get after it, he is going to wreak havoc in the middle of that defense. That's why he's the selection for the Giants at 5.
Yeah, look, Sonny Styles from your mock draft 2.0 to 3.0, moving up 10 spots. It should be noted, Love and Styles, two players that have moved into Bucky's top 5, the complete mock. We're going to be dissecting it here on Mock Draft Live, but if you wanted to give it a read, it is available on NFL.com. Lance, you heard what those first 5 selections look like. Let's start at number 1 here, Mendoza. I know you like this quarterback as well. Compare him to some of the other top flight quarterbacks that we've seen drafted over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think he'd be number 1 in last year's class. And I think you can go back and I think he'd be a competitive, number 2 potentially in the class with Trevor Lawrence all the way back to that big quarterback class. It didn't really pan out too much. But one of the reasons I really like, people will pick at Fernando Mendoza. He runs a lot of RPO, back shoulder throws. But if you really sift through all of the meaningful throws, the 3rd and long, the red zone throws, he was 39 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the red zone over the last 2 years at Cal, where he got sacked like 40 times, and then at Indiana, where he was a run-first quarterback. So when you really sift to the throws you want to see, you see that he does everything well. Everything well. He doesn't have a big arm, but he's extraordinarily accurate. And when you protect him, when his feet are set, he's got some of the best technique and mechanics that you're going to find. So I really also love the poise. I think he's a very poised player and poised person, which is important at that position.
You know what, Yam? I'm never going to play spades with Lance because Lance is going to cut with the big joker right off the top. He's not going to do the little things. He comes big with Mendoza and his comp. And I understand the fascination with Mendoza because he was terrific for the Hoosiers. However, now he talks about him ahead of some of those other guys. I don't know if talent-wise he's up there. We can talk about the way that he played and the production and the meaningful moments. He has that. But I do believe his detractors are going to say, how many games did he take over the game? When you look at the production compared to some of the other number ones, it falls short in terms of 300-yard games and signature games where we saw, hey, he's the best player on the field. But he is a really good player.
All right, Lance, so you're going to put all the chips in the middle of the table here with a pro comp for me on Mendoza?
Let's go Joe Burrow.
I mean,
he's not messing around here.
And Jared Goff. If it's not enough, we'll do a double bubble comp here. And let me explain this. Look, when I watched Fernando Mendoza, one of the first things that stood out was the accuracy. And like Joe Burrow, when I watched Burrow, it was just incredible the accuracy Joe made, that Joe had at LSU, the decision making, how quickly he'd read safeties. He'd have those combo, Joe Brady would have those combo routes where Joe was making a read on a corner or a safety, and as soon as you made a mistake, as soon as you declared, he was lighting you up. Mendoza has some of that too. I think with Joe Burrow, what I like is the accuracy, and he doesn't have a big arm, but he's not as mobile as Joe Burrow was coming out, Fernando Mendoza. I think that's more like in the pocket, the way he is really a technician, but maybe not quite as mobile. That reminds me in some ways of Jared Goff. And I think he can be a game manager. But I do think, Bucky, that I think he can take over when needed, like he did at Penn State in that fourth quarter. I think there are times he can. There were 5 games he didn't even play in the fourth quarter this year because it was blowout city, baby. So, it's just a matter of you're right. There's some things we haven't seen from Mendoza, but that's only because we haven't had to see them yet. So it still remains a little bit of an unknown, and that's part of the projection process here.
Yeah, saying it with his chest, because if you're going to say, hey, I like him better than Cam Ward, and then I'm going to get a comp like, Burrow and Goff and throw them into the mix as well. Lance is going to double down on it. Meanwhile, on the defensive side, would love to get your take because this class is pretty good on the defensive side of things. David Bailey, you like him out of Texas Tech going number 2 overall in this mock draft 3.0. Why does he deserve to be the headliner of the defensive class?
Because there's no projection when it comes to David Bailey. You know exactly what you're getting. And when you turn on the tape and dig into the X's and O's, he is terrific when it comes to speed and explosiveness off the edge. First step quickness, cat-like in the way that he pounces off the ball. And then he has some wiggle to him. But it's not just all speed. He can turn that speed into power. There we see him walking back, get it done. And you just think about the growth of his game from the way that he started at Stanford to how he finished up at Texas Tech. Speed, explosiveness, a knack for playmaking. This guy has it all, and that is why. Number 2, the New York Jets, you got to be thinking about David Bailey being the number 1 guy off the board.
Yeah, I agree with you, Buck. And I think, he's explosive. That gives you the first step quickness. The explosiveness also turns into speed bulls, which you mentioned. But I think it's a dynamic way in which he gets to the quarterback. It's like he reads his tackles. He understands the best way to attack the tackles he's facing and shows them what they don't like. And I think that's one of the real keys for David Bailey is, he's a great athlete. He's very explosive. But I think he has a real sense and real instinct for how to rush the player across from him, because not all tackles are created equal, and he attacks according to the tackle's weaknesses.
The three of us are going to be handling business for the NFL draft, and typically we'll use the phrase, hey, there's a run on a position group. Apparently, according to Bucky's mock, there's a run at Ohio State players. We got our first wide receiver taken off the board. All right, so Carnell Tate, you like him, and you think he's heading to Cleveland.
He absolutely is heading to Cleveland. I can't see the Browns bypass an opportunity to get a playmaker who has #1 wide receiver potential. When I look at Carnell Tate, it's the polish that he displayed his final season, the acrobatic catches, the big plays, all those things. And even though he played opposite a dynamic player in Jeremiah Smith, this dude is one of those hybrid wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2s. He is going to be whatever you need him to be on the perimeter. I think he is perfect for the dog pound in Cleveland.
Back-to-back Ohio State players on your mock.
Yeah, I'd be a little disappointed if I was Ohio State. I didn't win that title with all these guys.
Seriously.
But Caleb Downs going to the Washington Commanders, I like it because at the third level, having someone that can line everybody up, but also deliver the plays, whether that's as a center fielder, whether blitzing, being a box area bandit, he has all of those things. He is a pro's pro. That is why coaches love him. You think about playing in 2 pro-style systems, Alabama, then Ohio State. There's not a more pro-ready player than Caleb Downs who will enter the league.
Before we started the show, Buck, Lance, and I were watching video of this guy, and he is really impressive on the field.
Now, this is probably the most polarizing player in the top 10, Jordan Tyson. One of the reasons because he is so terrific. Reminds me a lot of the newly minted Jackson Smith and Jigba when it comes to route running, playmaking ability. But durability issues are a concern. If not for those things, we would be talking about him being wide receiver 1. To me, he's the most polished, the most pro-ready of all of them. It's just a matter how comfortable are you with his injury history.
Yeah, there was an interesting comp, which we'll get to in just a moment with regard to Tyson, some similarities of a guy that just got paid a whole lot of money. Once again, mock draft 3.0, according to Bucky Brooks, selection 6 through 10. It should also be noted that Downs and Mauigoa were previously in the 2.0 for Bucky in the top 5, so they've slid just a bit here on this 3.0 version. I want to circle back, Lance, so when it comes to the wide receiver spot with Tate, take me through what you're seeing from the star wide receiver on film.
Very few weaknesses. I mean, he does everything well. I really enjoyed watching the tape. It's crazy. He's wide receiver 2 at Ohio State. When you look at him, it starts at the ground floor with his ability to beat press. You can't get off into the route unless you can beat press, but watch this speed. Are you sure he's like a 4.57 like the combine said? Because I know when he's on the football field, he's way faster. He goes up and gets the ball at the high point. Great ball skills when it's time to get down at the high point or anywhere when he's contested. He's got that rack talent, that run after catch, the extra wiggle that can add yards after the catch and shorten intermediate throws. And, he is a terrific route runner. Most Ohio State wide receivers are really good route runners, and he is no exception. So, when we went from the ground floor and we built levels to it, Bucky. And when you build the levels, there's just not a lot of weaknesses to Carnell Tate. I wish he ran faster at the combine, but the tape says he can go.
Yeah, the tape does say he can go, and most #1 receivers are running in that 4.52 range. His ability to stop and start, the precision that he's shown has really helped him kind of climb up to being wide receiver 1 on some charts. But I just think this dude is so terrific. He can win those 50-50 balls. He is going to be an outstanding playmaker in his role at the next level.
Yeah, look, let's continue this conversation when it comes to the wide receiver spot, because Tate, no doubt, as you're a college football fan, he gave us so many of those wow moments, the grabs, the concentration, as both Lance and Bucky had highlighted, but he's not the only talented wide receiver in this class. And Jordan Tyson, I think what's really interesting, Buck, for your mock draft specifically is where you have him. 8th overall compared to DJ, CD, and where Lance has him. And Lance actually has him, still in the first round. We're still not talking about a guy that's going to be out of that first round, but it is interesting how high you are on him. It's time for Draft Builders. It is presented by Lowe's. So explain to me why you have so much faith in what Tyson can do on the football field.
Total package. When you're looking at wide receivers, you want guys who have the complete toolbox, and he has that. Outstanding route runner, terrific with the hands, and he finds a way to consistently create separation. Here we talk about inside, outside, being able to wiggle and win those one-on-one plays, but being able to take the top off the defense, he can do that. Number one receivers should be able to deliver the big plays, but also give you that chain mover when you need it in terms of being able to make possession catches and get it done. Strong hands, we see time and time again when you watch his tape, he consistently finds a way to win the 50-50 balls. He is terrific. And when I make that comparison to Jackson Smith and Jigba, it's about doing all the things that Jackson Smith and Jigba does. Remember, and Jigba started out outside, then moved. Started inside, then moved outside. He's the number one, and he just got paid like my guy Jordan Tyson.
A lot of money, Lance.
Yeah, and a couple of things I want to mention on Jordan Tyson. Coached by Hines Ward the last 2 years. So he's got that Hines Ward pedigree where he really learned how to get the most out of his route running and spatial awareness. And the other thing I want to mention, you don't see it as much on tape in 25, but you see it a lot on 24, is this guy's got some dog mentality when it comes to getting after defensive backs in the run game as well. Felt like he was maybe protecting himself a little bit this year, but you see plenty of aggressiveness as a run blocker, and that speaks to the mentality he has. That mentality is one of the things you absolutely love because it shows up in different elements of his game.
Yeah, keep in mind, and there's room for improvement here in terms of positioning for some of these players. Moving up 8 spots from 2.0 to 3.0 for you at this wide receiver spot. Meanwhile, Lance, next week we'll figure out exactly where you have Tyson and if there's going to be some movement in your latest mock. But we are just getting started here on Mock Draft Live. Still to come, Cowboys and Rams. They are on the clock. Bucky's got these guys making a big splash. Got 22 more picks to go. And we got all of them in the analysis right here on the NFL channel. I'm back here on Mock Draft Live, and a reminder, the 2026 NFL Draft presented by Bud Light, powered by Verizon, live on NFL Network, ABC, and ESPN, April 23rd through the 25th. You can also watch Draft Center right here on the NFL channel as me, Bucky, and Lance got you covered with all of the picks. But we continue with Mock Draft Live at number 11, and the Miami Dolphins. Venga Ioane, going with the big fella up front.
Yeah, going with the big fella, and I'm just thinking John Eric Sullivan spent a lot of time with the Green Bay Packers. He understands that this is my chance to rebuild this team in my own image. Let's make it a physical team at the line of scrimmage. Man, you talk about Ioane being able to move the furniture at the point of attack, have some nastiness. And for so long, we've talked about the Miami Dolphins being soft. Soft no more if they had the Penn State product to the point of attack.
Well, I don't think the word soft has ever been associated with the Dallas Cowboys' potential pick. Some help on defense. Ruben Bayman is a thumper.
Yeah, he is a thumper. I just think about this defense. Christian Parker takes over. Why not give him a Brandon Graham clone? Someone who was dominating in terms of in spurts, coming off the edge for the Philadelphia Eagles. When I look at Ruben Bain, I see a lot of similarities to his game. High motor, relentless pressure, love the effort, but more importantly, I love the physicality that it brings. As the Dallas Cowboys are making over that defense, physicality, toughness, effort has to be a big part of it.
The Rams on the clock. They already got a pretty strong receiver room, but you think, why not get a little bit better?
Why not? We can't have too many pass catchers for Matthew Stafford. Understand, we're in win now mode. Matthew Stafford is trying to make a case for the Hall of Fame. Another Super Bowl probably does that. Mekhi Lemon being able to catch passes in the slot. Remember, Devontae Adams, we don't know how many more years he has. You have Puka Nacua. Let's go ahead and bring Lemon in to be the number 3, knowing that eventually he'll be the second receiver to Nacua on the perimeter.
All right, meanwhile, at number 14, the Baltimore Ravens. We've seen some tinkering happening with this roster. This one makes sense. This is sort of the identity of the team.
Yeah, this is the identity, and Spencer Fano is a guy on the outside. He can play right tackle, but he also can slide inside, play guard, maybe even center. I think about the Baltimore Ravens and Jesse Minter, what they want to get back to. They want to be the bully on the block. They want to be physical. They want to dominate in the run game while also protecting Lamar Jackson. Spencer Fano is a terrific pick for the Ravens at this point.
All right, meanwhile, let's take a closer look at some of these picks and just get you a recap right now. 11 through 14. Lemon, by the way, at his pro day at USC, ran the football pretty well. And Fano is a guy, Bucky, I know that you did like coming off of the combine. Meanwhile, let's get you set, though. Time for Sharp Picks presented by Gillette. Lance, I want to focus in on Bain because I use the term thumper, but this is a guy that obviously has a physicality to him. What popped on tape when you assessed him?
Violence. I mean, he's just a very violent person. That's his default. It starts from the snap in terms of the way he gets into opponents. But really, when you see this, we talk about relentless effort. When it's paired with undeniable strength, it makes him impossible to block when he gets on your edge. He has that knockback power, not just here like as a rusher, but also at the point of attack off the snap. You got the ability to slide him down inside and mismatch guards as an interior rusher. And he's got these really, really heavy, violent hands. And this is what we were talking about. His ability to discard blocks, get rid of players, just thump people around. The physical style, I mean, you saw him just eliminate a double team with two pretty good blockers there. That's who he is. I mean, the physicality is who he is. And, sometimes we see players miss because, the finesse, pretty ones that are finesse and they're explosive and they're athletes, they can hit or miss a little bit. When you have powerful physical guys, that misses much less in the NFL because it's a physical sport, and Bain fits the mold. May not have the longest arms, may not be the tallest guy, but he fits every type of playing demeanor and playing style that you could possibly want on a defensive line.
I love this pick for the Dallas Cowboys, and if they make it, I think it would help them so much in terms of just raising the level of expectation from your defense, running hard, getting to the ball, being physical at the point of attack, being able to impose your will on the opponent. And I go back to the college football playoff. Everyone was talking about Reuben Bain and his arms. That was the conversation in the scouting community. All he did that final month of the college football season, dominate. Yeah. And so he might be undersized or not have the prototypical length, but you cannot deny he is going to will his way being a great player at the next level. I love the energy. I love the hard hat mentality that he brings. You can't get enough blue chip players with blue collar mentality.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense considering the conversation that the three of us have during the course of the season on some of the issues that this Dallas Cowboys team had. It feels like Bain does make a whole lot of sense. Would check that box. We'll continue with Bucky's mock draft 3.0. The Tampa Bay Bucks, they are on the clock.
I mean, look, Jamar McCoy coming over from Tennessee, and he's a bit of an unknown because we didn't see him this year. But what I do know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need a corner, and they need a ball-hawking corner who can play in that system that Todd Bowles wants to play, where he puts a lot of pressure on you up front and then leaves his corners on an island with eyes on the quarterback. McCoy, terrific with instincts, awareness, keys and diagnosis as well. And more importantly, he understands what to do when he gets his hands on the ball. Outstanding player. Just got to check his health.
With the number 2 overall pick, you thought the Jets would go defense with David Bailey, and it turns out with their second pick in the first round at 16, how about a little more defense?
You could have played for the Jets in the secondary last year because they didn't record an interception. We could have put you out there. You could have done the same thing. We are intent on making sure that doesn't happen again. Avion Terrell comes on board, son of A.J. Terrell, and Pro Bowl player. He has that knack. When I watch him, he reminds me a lot of Marlon Humphrey in terms of his ball awareness. Remember, he was responsible for 11 turnovers, 8 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions. That defense needs it. That's why we're going to put him in as a nickel player for the Jets.
Yeah, Lance, to be fair here, I know Terrell's probably got a little more range than I do, but the physicality that I bring to the table, a little different on my tape here. But what did you see when you were sort of writing up the report on what Terrell does well?
A lot of good. I didn't see a whole lot of weaknesses. I think the weaknesses with him is he played inside and outside, but from a size standpoint, he's more of a nickel. So I think he's going to have to play inside. I think you can give him some reps outside if you want. He hasn't tested in terms of the athletic testing up to this point, and I think that's one of the things that some scouts want to put that final, piece to rest. They want to get some numbers on him, and that may happen later in the process. He said he had a tweaked hamstring, so we'll see. But I mean, when you watch the tape, as Bucky mentioned, he really smothers routes. He's very good with his change of direction, his balance, his ability to mirror routes and mirror break points. And I think when you have ball skills and you have footwork, it turns into tighter, constricted passing windows. And that's what the NFL is all about, squeezing those windows as tight as possible. And he's a window squeezer, to be sure.
Yeah, by the way, just for context, on Lance's last mock, he had him going in the first round, 29th overall. So we'll find out if that changes next week when we dissect Lance's latest mock. So just once again, for context, talk about some really good, talented players. But I think you've, well, I shouldn't say I think, you do like them a little bit higher currently than Lance does. But we got more to come here on the show as we continue to get you through mocked draft 3.0 for Bucky Brooks. NFC North, they're on the clock. Bucky's got picks for the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears. And I know Packers fans are like, well, what about us? Well, you got Michael Parsons, so you took away that first-round pick. We got more of those selections still to come. Draft season, it's officially here. NFL Network, your destination for all the buzz surrounding your favorite squads. Patch of the Draft is on the clock starting Monday, March 30th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Got expert analysis, exclusive interviews, mock drafts, team needs, everything to get you prepared for the draft. We got you covered. Patch of the Draft, weekdays, 6 Eastern, NFL Network.
You can only run away from Akeem Mesidor for so long. This time, he will not escape. Akeem Mesidor with an edge rush and a sack.
Mock Draft Live continues to roll. Lions at 17. Got a little help for Aiden Hutchinson here.
Yeah, Akeem Mesidor coming off the edge to really give Aiden Hutchinson the Robin that he needs to be, the Batman that he is. And when I think about Mesidor, this is a perfect role for him because that is what he did for Ruben Bain. He was a complimentary player. And one of the things you do in scouting is you try to project guys in roles that they're comfortable in. Mesidor is a terrific number 2 rusher because he has the speed, the quickness, and the motor to take advantage of the sack opportunities that are going to be available when everyone slides their attention to Aiden Hutchinson.
At number 18, the Vikings, already a good defensive team, looking to Eugene, Oregon for some more help, though.
Look, I'm going to admit I have a draft crush on Dylan Thieneman because he is a rare player in the secondary. He can play in the center field and make plays. He did that at Purdue as a freshman where he has 6 interceptions. He also can drop down in the box and make things happen, whether it's a blitzer or in coverage like we saw at Oregon. He is terrific, and I just think when the Minnesota Vikings, if they're moving on from Harrison Smith, why not replace him with a guy who is a complete toolbox?
Yeah, look, we'll skip over the 19th selection. I'll get you that in just a moment, but we got the Dallas Cowboys, another first-round pick here.
Oh, we can go with Tennessee's Colton Hood. We are fixing this defense. We're intent on doing it, and we want to have guys that have high IQs but also have versatile skill sets. As I talked about, new defensive coordinator Christian Parker bringing over a defense that Vic Fangio ran. It requires those corners to be able to live on an island and do a few different things. Toughness is also one of them. Colton Hood, ultra competitive player, loves to mix it on the edge. He is what the Cowboys need in their secondary.
And Hood, by the way, for context, Bucky did not have him in the mock draft 2.0. So this is a guy that's been rising on your personal draft board as you get to the recap right now of selection 17 through 20. We kept with the defensive theme here, and I know I mentioned Carolina. Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle out of Georgia, would be that 19th selection. But let's circle back on that safety going to Minnesota. Lance, when you look at what he does on the football field, take me through what the tape is telling you about why he can be successful on Sundays.
Very smart. I mean, he plays. He can play on all 3 levels of the field. He can play back, he can play midfield, and he can play down in the box. Let's talk about the back end playmaking range right here. Firing off the hash, getting over the top, making a play on a football. He has that speed and explosiveness. We saw it at the combine. We see it on tape. Zone instincts. The ability to be where you need to be with the ball because you feel routes and you feel the quarterback's eyes. Run support. This is getting downhill, being an extra add-on run defender. Speaking extra add-on, how about an add-on blitzer? That blitz energy that he brings to the table. So you've got someone who can be effective near the line of scrimmage, but then you also have someone who can play on the back end with range and instincts to make plays on the football. That is what we call a two-way safety, and that's very, very important to have if you're going to draft a safety in the first round.
Yeah, really important. And safeties have become a more important position, not only because they take away the deep part of the field, but now we're using those guys to shadow tight ends, slot receivers, to be able to match up with quarterbacks who are athletic. You have to have a guy who is a bit of a decathlete, and that is what Thieneman is. We saw him put on an absolute show at the Combine. that pales in comparison to what he does on tape. Terrific player, one of the best players in the draft.
Yeah, Buck, we'll shift our attention to the offensive side. You and I spent more than a few hours together during free agency. We couldn't help but notice what Pittsburgh was able to do. Michael Pittman now all of a sudden making his way there. But you think we got our fourth wide receiver off the board heading to the Steelers?
Yeah, KC Concepcion. We are going to fully bake out this offense to make sure that we have a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3. DK Metcalf being the star of that unit, Michael Pittman. But then KC Concepcion, being able to be a guy that can work over the middle and make things happen. Mike McCarthy had a slot receiver for a long time, Randall Cobb, who is terrific with the ball in his hands. When I look at Concepcion, he gives off some of those vibes. I'm going to put him right there in Pittsburgh because he can help them immediately by being a dynamic slot receiver.
Yeah, once again, if you keep the tabs at home, that is the fourth wide receiver taken off the board. How about the Chargers at 22?
Look, man, I believe success leaves clues. And we think about Khalil Mack and what he's been able to do with the LA Chargers, big physical power rusher. Well, let's get TJ Parker in there, who has a similar game in terms of how he wants to play. Violent hands, relentless energy, nonstop motor. He can be an apprentice for Khalil Mack for a year before taking over and becoming a disruptive force for the Chargers off the edge.
Interesting. He's also another name that was not in Mock Draft 2.0 for you. Blake Miller, also a new name to your mock
we
draft.
like new things. Can't do the same thing. Lance Johnson was struggling in terms of with his health, injuries for Philadelphia. It's time to find an eventual successor. Blake Miller has played more football than anybody I can imagine as a guy with 54 starts in his career, outstanding with the technique, good with the hands, just a solid overall right tackle prospect. I'm going to put him right there behind Lane Johnson, and I'm going to keep it rolling in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts and company being able to get it done.
All right, another big fella off the board. The Browns certainly need some help in the trenches, and you think they found a guy in Salt Lake City?
Oh, man, Caleb Lemieux. When I think about natural left tackles, his footwork, his athleticism, movement skills, he has all of those things. Normally in most drafts, we really would covet those. But putting him here to make sure he can protect the quarterback in Cleveland, whether that's Shadur, Deshaun Watson, anybody else they bring, you have to have a franchise left tackle. Even though we're talking about in the 20s, to me, he has the athleticism to grow into that role. That's why I'm going to put him right there in the dog pound.
You know, I was interested with this next selection for the Chicago Bears. It's third safety off the board, but I couldn't help but notice that he's down 7 spots for you.
Yeah, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. He is one of these long-rangey safeties that can make it happen in a few different areas. I'm thinking about Kevin Byard's departure. Kevin Byard had a ton of interceptions. I need a playmaker in the middle that can do that. Dennis Allen is going to bring pressure. He is going to create big play opportunities. You got to have someone who can cash it in. EMW to the rescue in Chicago.
Gonna need some help because I made reference to free agency before, and we've seen some changes. There's so much positivity in the city of Chicago for all the things that they were able to accomplish last season. They need to love, but I look at that list on the right side of the screen and I go, oh, we got some dudes who used to rock a Chicago uniform that now all of a sudden will be playing for some new teams. So, Lance, when you hear what Bucky's thinking in terms of Warren, why does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense because we talked about two-way safeties. And, you know, there was a time when I was watching tape, I just felt like he was a robber and he was a box safety because he's such an enforcer. He's such a thumper. If you are anywhere near the hash where he's standing, you are going to get dotted up. That's just the way it is. But it's not just that. 9 forced fumbles during his career, 5 interceptions. He can flip the field for you. That is a big, big talent. But then I can't get this play out of my head. When I'm thinking he's a downfield, downhill safety, and then he ranges like that and makes a play on the football. You see it, you start seeing it happen a couple times. They don't use him that way all the time. Yeah. But when he does that, he shows that he has the ability to do it. So I think it makes sense because Chicago likes their safeties to be versatile enough to play really anywhere from any alignment, on the field.
And we talk about being monsters in the midway. You got to have some guys that like to knock people out, knock them around. I know we have changed the game a little bit, but this guy loves the smoke, and he's going to bring it, he's going to deliver it, while also producing the takeaways for the Bears to level up, to be a Super Bowl team They have to be able to continue to get turnovers in Dennis Allen's defense. This is a turnover producer.
Yeah, and look, the reality is that's what that defensive unit sort of feasted on last season. We'll figure out if he's going to be able to really be a major contributor, especially considering all the losses there. I was looking ahead at your mock draft. I can't help but notice when I'm on NFL.com, there is a consensus #1 tight end. We will tell you exactly who that is and where he is going to go. Final 7 picks. Bucky's newest mock draft is still to come. And yeah, that's that tight end that I'm making reference to, where Bucky thinks his new home is going to be. The answer is coming up. Look, the whole point is to get you ready for a couple of great days in Pittsburgh. NFL Draft. Got you covered. It's presented by Bud Light and powered by Verizon Live, NFL Network, ABC, ESPN, April 23rd through the 25th. And, of course, me, Lance and Buck, got you covered on Draft Center here on the NFL channel. But we continue with Bucky's Mock Draft 3.0, and at 26, C.J. Allen's off the board.
Yeah, we need an old school thumper at linebacker to make sure we show up this run defense. C.J. Allen is that guy. Throwback linebacker, great things and awareness, brings the violence at the point of attack. Jim Leonard is taking over this defense. They're going to more of a 3-4 unit. Put this guy right in one of those open gaps. Let him go. Let him feast on those running backs that are coming through the hole. C.J. Allen's a nice pick for the Bills spot.
Yeah, Bills Mafia certainly will be smiling ear to ear with that selection. Meanwhile, at 27, I'll tell you what, the Niners may have done a really nice job improving this roster in free agency. This would be really significant.
Yeah, it'd be significant. You talk about Nick Bosa being out last year. They just want to continue to make sure that they have enough pass rushers to compete against their division rivals. Yes, you have Mikael Williams that you got last year. Go and get another one. Keep throwing waves of bodies. Because remember, the Seattle Seahawks won because they were able to wear people down with a deep rotation on the edges. The San Francisco 49ers want to match that so they can harass those quarterbacks in the division, namely Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, at number 28, the Texans continue a little bit of a burst run of defensive players.
Man, their defense is already scary, so let's add another defender to add strength on strength. Peter Woods, talented 3 technique, great quickness in hands. I want to put him alongside Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr. I want to be able to dominate one-on-one matchups. Peter Woods is super talented. He can be able to do that. Has a little Christian Wilkins to his game in terms of his athleticism and how he can convert that into big plays.
You know, let's revert back to Howell here for just a moment. 6-edge player, according to you, that's taken off the board here. I know you like the fit for the Niners. What's the tape tell you?
Well, look, the tape, everyone's going to talk about his short arms, but I'm going to say before you get to the arms, you got to catch him coming off the edge. When we turn on the tape, you're going to see dip and rip multiple times. That's what he's going to do. Speed, explosive off the edge, dip and rip, and he's going to hit the quarterback in the back. He does it time and time again, but he also has some counter tactics. He can turn speed to power. He can wiggly come inside. He has a 2-hand swipe. The toolbox is full when he comes because his athleticism and explosiveness is overwhelming. People are talking about the arm length, but what I see is a dominant pass rusher that consistently gets to the quarterback.
I think he's kind of a little bit of David Bailey light in terms of the athleticism, the explosiveness. Man, that's how he likes to win, is that explosiveness. I think the arm length can be an issue for him if he doesn't, really tighten up the handwork. He's got to be great with the hands. For me, the issue with Cassius Howell is not the rush. I like the rush. I think he's got to get a little better as a run defender. And that, that's kind of one of those things where you don't know how a team is going to react and respond to drafting a player who may be just a designated pass rusher early on in his career. It takes a certain type of team, and I think Bucky put him with the right team, obviously, with San Francisco. So I think that's very critical. But Howell came from a smaller school, came to A&M, and showed that, listen, I can bring with me that same type of production from the smaller school up into the SEC.
All right, let's continue here because I can't help but notice the Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock, and Travis Kelce might be thinking about his life with Taylor and the whole thing, but according to you, Buck, Kansas City Chiefs, they're only thinking about football.
Sadiq, touchdown! And it's a big boy score for the Ducks.
Brendan Sadiq with a hurry. Complete to Sadiq. Sadiq still on his feet. Zone Sadiq, touchdown Ducks.
All right, you want to know how talented Sadiq is? Just watch some of the explosive plays.
I mean, he is everything that you want to see. This is a big-time playmaker, athletic freak on the perimeter, and just the mismatches that he can create. I just think about putting him in Kansas City, not only because he can learn behind Travis Kelce, but how about teaming up with Travis Kelce to put two dynamic weapons on the field? As this offense has to change with Patrick Mahomes coming off a knee injury, I want to make sure he has weapons over the middle of the field. Sadiq is terrific running down the seam. Let's add another playmaker to this offense.
Look, you look at the statistics and what the metrics will tell you. I'm candidly almost shocked looking at this. I know he's a freakazoid, but we're talking about some of the best tight ends. We've been blessed the last couple of years watching this position really thrive. Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, lower scores than Sadiq, which is saying something according to Next Gen Stats powered by AWS. Lance, do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, rare athlete. I agree with the assessment completely. And see, we get along when DJ's not here. I just want to point that out. You know what? Kenyon Sadiq is just a rare athlete. We saw it at the combine. He's a rare athlete. You can see it on tape. The guy's built like a brick outhouse. He can run over tacklers, as you see. He can jump over. I go Skeets Nehemiah because I don't know any current hurdlers, so I go back to my childhood. He's got the speed to get up the field and mismatch linebacker. So who are you putting on him when he's lined up in the slot? And that goes for this, the ability to stretch a seam. Now he's stressing safeties who've got responsibilities, to the boundary from the hash. And he'll get after you as a blocker, too. He's willing as a blocker, and that's all you want. You want somebody willing, who's got strength, and then you tie that with elite athleticism and the ability, to me, to be a high-volume Trey McBride type of tight end, Brock Bowers type of tight end when it comes to volume. I think that's why the NGS score made sense having those two guys on that list.
You know what makes sense to me, Lance? It makes sense to me that Travis Kelce came back so he can make some more money, pay for this big, elaborate wedding that he's going to have with Taylor Swift.
To be fair, I think she could cover the
sunset.
costs.
And we just want Sadiq to be able to be there. So when Travis is a stay-at-home husband, we want him to be able to finally look at the guy that takes over for him and feel good about the Kansas City Chiefs being in good hands. That's why the Swiftie and me just had to put Sadiq there. I had to make it work. Spent a lot of time on the mock draft trying to figure out how I could get Sadiq to Kansas City. We got it done. Now everybody's happy. I'm excited. I'm looking for the wedding of the century. I'm looking forward to it.
I didn't know that you
the
were a
Swiftie and me.
We talked about it, Yammer. I thought he was going to propose at the Super Bowl, but they didn't win it. And that messed it up and that held it off. But now, wedding of the century, and then my guy Sadiq can take over in Kansas City.
Lance, you got the invite, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going. When it goes down, I'm there.
It's in the mail, apparently. Although I think you're positioning Bucky at this point to try to go and get an invite to that one. Before the show, you name-checked this dude, and you got him going to Miami, which might be a function of some moves that the Dolphins have made.
Yeah, when you lose all your wide receivers, no Tyreek Hill, no Jalen Waddle, you have to find someone for Malik Willis to throw to. Who's better than Omar Cooper? Omar Cooper, a guy who can play anywhere on the field. Wide receiver 1, 2, or 3. Terrific with the hands. Nice chain mover. He would be a nice addition to this offense that is really trying to rebuild the entire operation with Malik Willis at the helm.
I think the Patriots are thinking about running it back, although maybe just getting over the hump in the biggest game of the year. Is Falk a guy that can help them?
The reason Falk fits for the Patriots is because of the versatility. I just think about his size and toughness, being an edge player who is really better against the run than as a pass rusher. And I think about Mike Vrabel and how they like to morph from a 4-3 to a 3-4. His versatility on the edge, man, would be so valuable to the Patriots. Nice fit for them.
Meanwhile, the champs are here. The champs are here. A little bit of a spending spree on the offensive side with JSN's new deal. They got some help on the defensive side.
Oh, look, they got some more checks to write. When Devon Witherspoon gets paid, they're not going to be able to shop. They got to shop in the bargain basement. So expend the first-round pick on a guy, Brandon Cisse, who is a terrific athlete, who has great instincts and awareness. Reminds me a lot of Josh Norman, who had a lot of success in the league. Little unorthodox in his technique, but every time you look up, he's around the ball making plays. Seattle Seahawks, find another one.
Yeah, shout out to that front office. Have done a remarkable job the last couple of years in the draft, finding some gems and some real production here. Meanwhile, a recap of picks 26 through 32 should be noted. Cooper and Cisse, both of those guys new to the first round dance on Bucky's Mock Draft 2.0 compared to the 2.0 version. Coming up, time to show some love for a couple teams that didn't have first-round picks. There's 5 of those squads: Colts, Falcons, Jags, Packers, and Broncos. We got a second-round match for you. That's still to come. Back here on Mock Draft Live, it happens. Trade deadline comes around. Maybe you have to, give a pickup, and sometimes it's first-round compensation. That's happened to at least a couple of these teams here. Teams with no first-round picks, unless they figure out a way to trade back in. Colts, their first selection, 47. We got the Falcons, Packers, Jags, and Broncos. All will have to wait just a touch here to find out where some new hope lies. So break this down, Warren. Let's start with the Colts. Who's a player that you could target with that first pick that they have?
Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker extraordinaire from the University of Texas. He'll be a nice fit. Remember, they traded away Zaire Franklin. They're looking for someone in the middle who can do more than just play in the middle like a traditional linebacker. When I look at Anthony Hill, it's not only his ability to run around and make plays as a sideline-to-sideline player, he can come off the edge and make it happen. Lou Anarumo does a great job of taking advantage of versatile players. Let's put him with the Colts.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons, and I'm going to Falcons pick. I'm going to take Derek Moore. Falcons need rush. We know what's going on with James Pierce. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But for right now, they need rush, and I think Derek Moore makes a lot of sense. He's a strong, high-character guy. He's got tremendous traits, and he might be the most brutal bull rusher and speed-to-power rusher in this entire draft when he gets that long arm into you. So I'm going to get the rush right, and I'm going to go with a Michigan man, Derek Moore.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice pick.
Look, I'm thinking about the Packers. I know you got some history with that organization.
Yeah, go Pack go. Let's go with Gabe Akis coming off the edge. And when you look at this guy on tape, man, there is a lot to fall in love with. Speed, energy, effort, natural playmaker, has a professional approach in terms of the way that he gets after it. To me, knowing that organization, he is a guy that they are targeting. He flies up under the radar, but he could be a big-time player for the Packers.
No, I like this one.
Well, you know what? Let's take a look at the last pick of the group that we're doing, at least the last one I think. It's the last one I'm doing, and that's going to be Jacob Rodriguez. I'm going with J-Rod, the linebacker from Texas Tech with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bucky, you know a little something about that team. This guy's good. He's not just a mustache and a lot of hype. I mean, he's got terrific instincts. He knows how to get to the football effectively. Reminds me in that way of Carson Schlesinger in terms of his ability to fill up several stat columns. And I just think his love of the game really shows up on every single snap. Just a great energy that I think the team feeds off of. So I'm gonna get right at the linebacker spot since Devin Lloyd's leaving, and I'm going with Jacob Rodriguez here.
I mean, let's keep it going. We talked about linebackers, and this is a terrific linebacker draft in the second round. How about the Denver Broncos going with Josiah Trotter from Missouri? Inside, this guy's terrific in terms of the instincts, awareness. He understands how to make plays, goes and gets it when he has an opportunity. Denver Broncos always looking to add pieces in Vance Joseph's defense. This is another piece that will help them get back to the top.
Yeah, can you imagine this team? They might be set up for a great run here. We always talk about draft grades. Lance, what's the grade for Bucky's Mock Draft 3.0?
I'm copying a lot of it. I'm going to go with an A+, man. The first 5 picks are mine. Just copy and paste. That's what I'm doing.
Well, I hope that's not the case because your mock is up next week. So let's make some changes here. We'll see ya.